Good evening. Good evening. Boy, it's a hell of a full moon, isn't it? No, that's not behind me. That's a street light. But I don't know about anybody else. But this one was definitely potent, I guess is a good way to put it. Changes in the air. It's everywhere, really. You know, the funny thing about that is most people, myself included, um, usually don't like to change unless they're forced to. Um, More if it's, something they really, really want. Um, in tarot, we call it tower moments. Yes, I do read cards too. No, I don't do it publicly anymore. Different story. Anyway, so recently, my sister, and I actually won't mind me telling this story, contacted me. She's gone through some change, tower moment. Um, Sad, disappointing, obviously. Um, but she asked me a question. She asked me to take her through the 12 steps again and essentially be her sponsor. But not necessarily in the very traditional manner, as in, like your 12-step programs, whether it be AA, NACA, or even CODA or anything like that. Just kind of as a refresher, more or less. And she had hesitations and doubt when she asked me. She was like, if you don't want to, I totally understand, blah, blah, blah. And that kind of surprised me at first. Because, I mean, honestly, I would be completely honored to help and assist her by all means. Um, but I understand where her thinking is in the aspect that one of those things where, because she is family and I do care about her a lot, um, my perceptions and opinions might be slightly biased. Um, Although I think I'm confident in my abilities to disconnect and remove myself enough to give truly objective feedback. Um, so that's going to be a new thing here recently. And it's probably time. I've got almost 2 years under my belt. Not that she's relapsed or anything, because she hasn't. Um, but it brings up the point of, most people, when they hear about the 12 steps, of course, they think AA. And they think that, you have to be one of the isms, an addict slash alcoholic. Um, in order to utilize those. Not at all. Um, Code of Codependent Anonymous uses the same 12 steps. A lot of the same verbiage, actually. I have one of their books too. I've read most of it. Not as thoroughly as some of the others, but um, and in all of the programs, they talk about how the 12 steps, if you do them thoroughly and honestly and rigorously, that, at the end result is that you will have a spiritual awakening. You will have a much more well established conscious contact with your higher power or God. And there's a reason for that. Essentially, what the 12 steps do is they help to disengage, deflate, and even kill the ego in the aspect of no longer running on autopilot and allowing essentially your egoic thinking and your emotional reactions to dictate and control your life. The ego serves a very good function, you know. It's part of the personality and it's a necessary part. And I've stated this before too. It's ironic though that actually having an overinflated or underinflated ego produces similar results as far as behavior patterns or end result of behavior patterns, I should say. In my experience, I'm by no means professionally educated in said manner. This is all based on my own personal experience and years of reading and introspection and all kinds of other fun stuff. Educating myself, which I am always about pro education. It's amazing. We live in a world where everyone has basically limitless information at their fingertips, and rarely is it used or used correctly. You know, unfortunately, there's also a lot of misinformation out there, which is sad, really. Not the point. But you know, yeah, I think it's going to be a good thing. I could probably use a little refresher myself. You know, the first few times I went through the 12 steps, and I've been through all of them several times now. One of my first sponsors actually made it a point to go through them every year, um, because you know, life is what happens when you make other plans. You know, life continues to go. You're going to continue to grow. You're going to continue to evolve, which means you're going to have good times and bad times, and that also means you're going to build resentments again, and all of these other things. You know, you don't rewrite 20, 30, 40 years of essentially reinforced, I don't want to say bad programming or negative thinking, but reinforcing everything that's in the subconscious. You don't rewrite that in a year or two or even five. You know, you can get a good chunk of it by all means, but it's, you know, growth and healing is an ongoing process. It never ends. Not in my experience. Every time you think it does, that's usually when the universe smacks you upside the head and goes, hey, guess what? At least in my case. And I don't get little subtle signs. No, I get big red neon flashing in my face, sledgehammers to the face. Like it's, I get signs that are so apparent. People around me are like, "Damn, dude, that was a fucking sign." Like, so I'm hard headed, I guess. Anyway, yeah, I recently celebrated 20 months. I don't know if I don't even remember if I did a video or not. It's, you know, as a matter of fact, I'll be up 21 here real soon, on the 21st. Mm-hmm. 21, 21. I can't make it up. Sorry. I, I didn't plan that, I swear. And I just now realized that. Thank you. Oh, speaking of signs, gifts, my typical gifts, my feathers, which for the most part I get it almost one a day, but some days I get more than others. Today, I get this one. As far as I can tell, it's a blue herring feather. And then I also got a group of, see if I can get them. I actually had another one too, but more wild turkey feathers. I've got hawk, eagle, baby eagle. I've got probably, I don't know, 10 blue jay feathers now, blue herring feather. Um, sparrows, a couple of goose. I'm waiting to get another cardinal feather. I had one years ago, and I lost it in a move or something, so I suspect that'll be coming soon. I've been seeing a lot of them this last week or two. Ancestors. Um, Specifically, my father, my grandfather, and several others from way, way back. I gotta meditate on that yet. It's one area of my gifts that I need to focus and practice a little more on. I used to be real good at it years ago as a kid, and it's, life, opinions, everything else. You start to suppress that shit. I guess that brings me to part of the other topic is, one of the things that stuck with me, and I don't even know who told it to me, was that, you know, it's one thing to take advice and in opinions of your friends and family around you. A lot of times they will see things that you won't or refuse to or whatever. It's something entirely else to start relying on that as your only source of guidance. Um, I firmly believe that a lot of people don't listen to their heart enough. I believe a lot of people don't know how to listen to their heart. I think a lot of times they get gratification and truly listening to what the heart wants mixed up. At least I have in the past. I try not to so much anymore. Anyway, like I did a couple videos on materialistic thinking or materialism, not the political or socio-economical viewpoint, but just in general, people who are more focused on you know mundane physical 3D crap. And that's not to say that nice things aren't nice. Of course they are. Yes, I would love a nicer, newer car. You know, is my life dependent on it? Not exactly. No. Yes, I would love to have a beautiful home somewhere. Of course I would. Of course I want those things. But do I get my sense of security, self worth, and whatnot? Do I think of myself as less than because I don't have those things? No, I don't. Not at all. And that's what I mean by materialism. A lot of people, that's the great American dream. The house, car, 2.5 kids, white picket fence, dog, cat, hamster, fish, whatever the fuck. I don't know. I don't know what it is anymore. I don't think I ever did. Um, but people get so hung up on that. That's what makes them feel secure and safe, and it does to an extent, obviously. And like I said in my other videos, I guess one, I didn't necessarily grow up wealthy. Matter of fact, you could say that there were parts of my life that you would definitely consider us very impoverished. Um, so I learned my sense of security from loyalty, um, friendship, things like that. Not necessarily how many gifts I got at Christmas or what kind of house we lived in or how nice my clothes were or any of that stuff. And that's not to say it's a bad thing. It's not. It's not good or bad. People give it that kind of power and that kind of influence over themselves and their decision making. In my experience, so unfortunately, most people like that, and it's I mean, I'm sure people have seen many books and videos and all kinds of other stuff about it, about how some of the richest people in the world are some of the most unhappy. Yeah, because they put themselves in a gilded cage. It's a story of Judas. The guy who betrayed Jesus for 20 bags of silver or whatever it was. That's what happens when you trade love for money. Necessary? Sure. For a lot of people, it is. It is a part of their necessary spiritual journey to get them to hopefully wake up to what is truly important and valuable in this world. In my experience, what is truly valuable is true loyalty, friendship, trust, honesty, unconditional love. Not to be mistaken with unconditional acceptance of one's behaviors. There's a difference. Just because you unconditionally love somebody doesn't mean you have to put up with any form of abuse or toxic behavior. It probably means you're going to be a lot more tolerant and a lot more willing to give those people chances. I know I definitely am, 100%. There are definitely quite a few people who have been in and out of my life that I would wholeheartedly and very gladly give them another chance, just as I would hope they would give me one. You know, we're supposed to make mistakes. That's how we learn. But the whole gilded cage thing, you know, and as some say, it's a necessary evil, and it is to an extent. You can't necessarily survive in this world. Well, you can, but having a decent place to live and a nice car and all that sort of stuff, it definitely makes things more convenient. Doesn't necessarily make navigating relationships or emotional healing or spiritual growth any easier per se, but it makes navigating the 3D and the mundane a little more convenient. So it has its purpose. But the point is some people use it as a form of escape. Whether it's a gambling addict or a shopaholic, you know, and it makes sense. I mean, it feels good. Who doesn't like to win money? Who doesn't like to buy themselves new things? Everybody does. You may not enjoy the shopping experience, but I guess I'm just very conscious of a lot of behaviors like that because having been an addict for so many years and having seen so many people go into recovery and then develop a cross addiction, such as being a shopaholic or a workaholic, and I'm even a little bit guilty of the workaholic thing. Um, I'm very aware of that, and in my I try to be a lot more aware now of my thinking, my intentions. I'm always asking myself why. I'm always trying to dig a few layers deep, and it gets tiring. Absolutely. Um, so I know I just started kind of rambling. It happens. You can tell I need to shave. It's been a couple weeks. I've been really busy at work. Um, we had some people leave, and we got a couple more. The high school kids are getting ready to go back to school in a week or two. So, um, my responsibilities and my hours are going to increase probably pretty substantially here real soon, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Especially as we're coming into fall. Normally, this is kind of our wind down season, but since we're going to have less employees, I should actually be able to maintain the 50 plus hours a week I've been doing, which is good because I need to save money to find a place. Like I said, it's not all bad. It really isn't. But the cool thing too is, I'm learning a lot more. Um, Maybe some career decisions soon, so whether or not I want to pursue this industry a little more than I have been. And I'll probably decide that over the winter. Not a bad thing for sure. I used to do IT for over 25 years, and now I work at a golf course, and I fell in love with it. So you never know. And I'm 49 years old, so it's never too late to change. Change. Oh yeah, that's what I started with. I love how the universe brings me back. Um, so change. It's not that the thing with change is most people are very capable of changing. Absolutely. The reluctancy comes in when it's because it's the fear of the unknown. It's the risk versus reward. It's the devil you know or the devil you don't. All pun intended. Um, you know, Intuitively and energetically, I feel there's a lot going on as far as that's concerned. People are realizing that to use one of the more modern terms, the karmic cycles they have been repeating in their lives and the relationships they're in the lessons that they have been refusing to embrace. I won't say ignore because I think a lot of people have been aware of those lessons for quite some time. But certain relationships and behavior patterns have been normalized. It's kind of like Stockholm syndrome. You put yourself in a gilded cage and you get used to it. So it's easier to maintain than it is to change. Even if your heart and soul is crying out for something else. So, yeah, I guess I'll leave it there. Have a good night.